Hey guys, David Giller here, and today I'm going to talk to you about a very common issue that I see with organizations that are using Salesforce. As you know, Salesforce gives us many options in order to customize the configuration of Salesforce in order to match the business process needs of any organization. Salesforce also gives us ways that we can go ahead and relabel things. We can change the wording that's used in Salesforce in order to match the terminology that's used internally within the organization. This is the point that I want to harp on for this video, which is if you decide to go ahead and change the terminology, change the words that are used in Salesforce for standard native functionality, you are opening a Pandora's box that you will have a lot of trouble fixing down the road. I'm going to give you a specific common example of this. So, as you know, Salesforce has standard objects for leads, contacts, accounts, opportunities, etc. In many organizations, the term accounts used for the object called accounts in order to track companies, organizations, or households. The term accounts often gets many business leaders all bent out of shape. And at some point, this happens all the time. At some point, some senior leader will go over to the system admin and say, hey, we've got this label, this tab over here that's called accounts. Is it possible to change it? And maybe we should call it customers. And the system admin, if they are familiar with the configuration options in Salesforce, they will say, of course we can change it. Absolutely. It'll take me about 10 seconds in order to implement that. So the admin goes ahead and they find the appropriate screen in Salesforce. They change the reference to accounts everywhere that it says accounts. It should be called customers, and initially everyone is happy. However, at some point down the road, the following happens. First of all, it becomes challenging to train your end users. What is the difference between customers and contacts? Because a contact, which is a person, could also be a customer. The other thing that happens is at some point you will have some situation, even if it only happens once, where you want to track some type of organization, some type of company that is not yet a customer. Maybe they're a competitor. Maybe they are a referral source. Maybe they are a prospect, an organization that you are interacting with, that you are trying to pursue, but it's a company that is the prospect, and you are also tracking the individuals, the employees at that company that are also prospects. And you've renamed that account tab, you've renamed it to customers. So what do? Well, you know what happens very often? And this is horrible. To me, it's like a crime every time I see it. Usually what happens at that point is someone will turn to the system admin and ask the system admin to go ahead and create another custom object in order to accommodate all of these other scenarios that I just listed. And that opens all kinds of other issues, because then what happens if the prospect company becomes a customer? We now have a duplicate. You're about to create a duplicate in different objects. And how are you going to migrate the data from that custom object that you called prospect or prospect company to the one that the native object of accounts that you've renamed to, let's say, call it customer? The other issue is from a training and troubleshooting perspective. If, let's say, everyone that's in the company today wins the lotto, retires, moves on, and other people come in and they are trained on how to use Salesforce the way everyone else has been using Salesforce, and they have some type of question, some type of issue, and they call customer support and they say, hey, I want to pull a list of all of my customers, or when I am on the customer screen, I either do have or don't have the following functionality. And no one in customer support is going to have any clue how to help them. Because you are the only ones who have renamed that account tab to call it customer. Now, the other issue is when you're using all kinds of other third-party apps, and those third-party apps will say that they integrate, they can, let's say, synchronize or utilize the information that's stored in the account section of Salesforce, you're going to say, oh, we don't have something like that called accounts. And you're not going to have any clue whether or not your existing configuration of Salesforce is compatible with that new app that you're trying to explore. So my recommendation is this. Yes, you are technically able to go ahead and customize the native functionality that Salesforce has, including renaming everything. Almost everything you can rename. There are a lot of things that you can't rename, but objects in particular. Please, please, I beg of you, for yourself and for the sake of your employees and for the sanity of everyone on your team, please don't rename the standard objects in Salesforce. Let's rewind the example that I gave you before, and I'll walk you through how I would solve for these issues. So let's say we look at the accounts object, the accounts tab in Salesforce, and senior leader says, hey, I really don't like this thing called accounts. To us, an account is something else. It's like when a customer actually activates service with us, then we create an account for them. And I get that. I understand what's going on here. But if a senior leader were to come to me and say, we really don't like the label of accounts, can you rename it to companies or customers? I would immediately start probing with some of these examples where that label is not going to apply. And we don't want to, nobody wants to, nobody should. Not when I say we don't want to, it's not out of laziness. We should not be creating custom objects in Salesforce in order to track companies, organizations, associations of any kind, whether it is a referral organization, a vendor of some kind, a competitor, the press, investors, households. We should not be creating any custom objects in order to track any of those things. Those should be types of accounts. And there are many ways that you can track types of accounts. First of all, in Salesforce, on the accounts object, there is native a field called type. And you can change the pick list values. You can put in whatever you want. Now you might say, well, that's all fine and dandy, but only certain people should have visibility to certain kinds of accounts, certain kinds of companies or organizations. And when we are tracking a vendor account versus a customer account, there are different attributes that we want to track. When we are tracking a referral source, there are different attributes that we want to track about the referral source. That's fine. Let's go ahead and leverage the incredibly powerful functionality that Salesforce has called record types. And with record types, we can control the permissions, the visibility of who has access to see, create, edit, delete any of those kinds of record types. And it will also give us the ability to create a custom page layout for any of those different kinds of organizations that we want to track, while still having all of them reside under the Accounts tab. So yes, technically you can rename the terminology in Salesforce in many, many areas, like the Accounts tab, to call it whatever you want. You want to call it Kazoo? You can call it Kazoo if you want to. But please don't, because you will be opening a horrible Pandora's box that will be very difficult to climb out of. So instead, my recommendation is, and I'm not saying all of the terminology that Salesforce has makes complete sense. No, I am not saying that whatsoever. But what I am saying is, in order to leverage all of the help desk material, all of the training videos, all of the learning resources that Salesforce has in order to speak the same language as all of the Salesforce consultants that you might ever tap into, or the Salesforce apps that you might ever want to leverage. Please do yourself a favor and stick with the native terminology that Salesforce has, and it will make everyone's life so much easier if you do that. Anyway, that's it for me. I am very curious to hear what your thoughts are on this particular topic. Go ahead and drop me a note, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.